Tim Rossi for Tempo Journal with Jeff from Trackland, chief intern, as
Chief
we're
intern.
going to refer to you, chief intern. I need to make sure to get that one right. But Jeff, nice to have you on the show, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, chief intern's my official title. So stay humble, stay hungry. That's what we like to do at Tracklandia. That's what we're all about. It's good to be
That's
here.
what we're all about. You 1,000% need like business cards that say "Stay humble, stay hungry" with your job title, chief intern, on it. That would be
Yeah,
gold.
that sounds like a Tim Rossi catchphrase right there, though. That's
It's
rise and
you'll see
grind.
the hashtag. Yeah, a few things, a few variations like that. But obviously, we're here to talk about Lilac, where you do have a different title, Lilac Grand Prix, I should say as well. I do love the Grand Prix, so I need to make sure that I continue to include that. But yeah, tell us the title for Grand Prix right there for Lilac. What's the title there? Because I know it's a little different.
Well, yeah, we were trying to think of names. Obviously, we like the elegance that comes with the Grand Prix, the European racing kind of imagery that comes with that, and then Lilac is Spokane is the Lilac City, so it's famous for Bloomsday. Like 40,000 people just they do that every year in May, and it's I guess there's a ton of flowers there. I've done it a couple times. The Doomsday Hill is a real kick in the ass. So it's a good event though. Spokane's a great city, highly underrated city too. Everybody's going to be really shocked when they get out there and be like, why doesn't everybody in Manhattan live out here? I think.
Oh man, I've been to Spokane once for a cross country club nationals, and it was a ton of fun. I had a great time in Spokane, so I have no doubt that for the purposes of this meet, it's going to be absolutely awesome as well.
The Big Apple of Eastern Washington.
That's the nickname. That's what they call it. But let's dive right in, dude, because I know as it pertains to tempo, people are probably familiar with a piece that you wrote about the pay-per-view model, which is still here for Lilac Grand Prix. Let's start with the origin story for that one, because I do really like that origin story with you and Pete Julian. If you want to relay that one to people.
Well, sure. So in 2020, if we can remember back that far, I guess, uh, we at Portland Track, then I'm also a part of Portland Track, and that's kind of the father or mother organization of Tracklandia, Trackland, and then yeah, we were birthed out of that. Still close partners with Portland Track, but we were charged with putting on the Big Friendly series, which is a series of summer meets in and around the state of Oregon, which we then said was the moon because we weren't allowed to disclose our locations at that time. But we put on these meets with a few teams in and around the Pacific Northwest who were kind of stuck and needed competitions. And we had the Big Friendly, the Bigger Friendly. I don't remember there's the meaning of friendly, the force of friendly. But at that point in time, streaming services could not fly around the country to film different meets. So we decided that we could film and produce and package our own meets. And that's what we started to do. And the plan was to push it through another streaming service platform. And that would be behind a paywall. And I took this information to Pete Julian, who then was the coach of the Pete's Dragons, but now is the coach of the Union Athletics Club. I took that information to him and was really excited about it. And he said, "Well, we're not huge fans of that model, and I know streaming services and broadcast companies have done a ton for the sport, largely because athletes rely on sponsorships for payment, and those companies provide platforms to show these sponsorships. But what Pete said to me was, yeah, that is behind a paywall. Donovan Brazier is going to be running in these meets. He's the world champion. He doesn't see any of that money, and his mom has to pay to watch him race." And at that point, we were like, "Oh, that's a very good point, Pete." And if we can film and produce and package these things ourselves, why don't we just put it out there for free? Because I didn't feel comfortable with if somebody was going to be making money off of this, none of it going to the athletes at that point in time. And then as we went further down the road, we always wanted to figure out a way to kind of close that loop, and how could we make it possible for athletes to earn based on their performance? Because in our sport, like I said before, it's largely based around sponsorships, and companies that sponsor athletes they do amazing things to, it's amazing when a company does sponsor an athlete, I think, and to pay somebody to endorse their products. But I feel like there's room in this sport to pay athletes more, based on their performance in the arena and on the track. And I think that's more of a merit-based philosophy. And if we can open that avenue for that to happen, then that provides more opportunity for up and comers, for people to see the kind of matchups that they want to see between the stars on the track. And many other professional sports in the United States, the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, I think they play hockey here too. They have revenue sharing models with their athletes with broadcast revenue. So the NFL's is 51% of broadcast revenue goes to the players. So we started doing that last year, and that's the gist of the article that I wrote for Tempo, and we built our platform that's now on Trackland.com, and it kind of shows this, and it shows a big percentage of the money that each person pays pay-per-view. You're not locked into a subscription. It goes directly into the prize purse, and it's divided evenly amongst each race in the meet. And then you have the ability to sweeten the pot in there too, so you can add a little more to each race if you're enticed to, and you're excited about the lineup, and or you want to like try and entice another athlete to jump into the field because you're like, this is a good field, but if I add a little bit more in there, I might get that other athlete in there. And sponsors can do that as well, and we'll call that out. We could like say, hey, I don't know, Nike believes wholeheartedly in Craig Engels, and is convinced, and they want to bet on him and say like, we're going to bet on our athlete Craig Engels. We're going to put $5,000 into the prize purse, and we know that he's going to be the one to take it. I think that's a huge stand that a brand can take too, and it gets people excited too. And then before you know it, pay-per-view numbers go up, and athletes are getting paid more, and we get to do more of these things, and then we could start to create more programs too with this money, to benefit unsponsored athletes as well. I mean, we're always rooting for the underdog to win.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, and that last piece is such an important one as well, right? Where exactly what you said. Obviously, companies and brands who are sponsoring athletes are doing an absolute ton, and it's super cool to see that. Limited resources, you can't sponsor everyone, whatever it might be. Like, there's other ways, hopefully, that you can make people make money within the sport and allow people to stay within the sport. And all of a sudden, if these prize purses are enormous, whether it be, and I think that's one of the cool ones that we've talked about as well, like, yes, the pay-per-view money going directly to the prize purses is awesome. And I know that you guys have a lot up there about exactly where the money goes. So transparency, obviously it takes money to put these meets on, but with so much of it going to the athletes, that's one, awesome. But then the other ability for additional sponsors to come in and put a bunch of money up for a specific race, or for an entire meet, that's also awesome, is the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, someone wins one of these races or finishes second who maybe doesn't have a contract at this point. That's awesome. And maybe they can live for a few months training as a professional off of that, and live the professional lifestyle, which I should probably put in air quotes, but that's okay. Like, that stuff's awesome, and hopefully just is growing the sport of running.
Yeah, and then if that underdog athlete does take the win, maybe they did it against a field that has big matchups, and it's convinced somebody that, hey, we should sponsor this person. So to be able to provide that type of platform is a big goal of ours as well. But I think, yeah, we're trying to just create a system that benefits everybody involved, and we don't want it to be all about money, obviously. Our main goal in all of this is to show creative broadcasts and show the sport in a way that we want people to feel what we feel about the sport. You know what I'm talking about, Tim.
Yeah.
Like we feel it deep inside. It's a special sport, and we want to share it with or share that feeling with their people if they're newcomers to the sport or if they're people who love it and have loved it for a long time. And I think that's why we started this production side of things that's linked directly to meet development and organization too, is because we want to be tied directly to um, the plan and to the stories developing with athletes early on, to the schedule being formed to make sure that it's a good, exciting broadcast for fans to watch, and all that jazz.
Yeah, and what you just said is one of the conversations that we had before that I definitely want to touch on as well. Yes, with the pay per view and the money, like that being athlete centric is awesome, and money is just a conversation in running generally. But something that I was struck by when we were chatting about this meet broadly was the way that you guys are able to set this up so focused on the athletes to make sure that from the production side, nothing is going to interfere with the product on the track, which people like ourselves, who I lovingly call track nerds, like we want to see the best runner win in the end, or we want to see these amazing races happen. And sometimes there's ideas that are maybe tossed around, which everyone's got a ton of ideas right now, and like you can try things, but focusing on what is gonna create the best experience for the athletes that are participating in the meet, I know is a huge one for you guys, and one wanting to keep people coming back, but then also to engage fans and engage the sport. I think that athlete centric piece is something super important that I know is a huge focus of yours.
Yeah, I think everything we do, anything that we add to a meet presentation has to accentuate the action on the track, and it cannot distract from it. So any piece, that's the lens that we put it through, and that's the question that we ask ourselves: like, is this heightening the story of the race as it's unfolding on the track, or is it distracting from what an athlete is trying to do? So uh, what I love to tell people when they come to our meets is, hey, like, you just be the truest version of yourself that you could possibly be and execute your race to the best of your ability. And it's our job to know you and know who you are and to weave those stories together and tell that to the audience. And if that isn't communicated well, then that's on us. It's not your fault at all. Your job is to race and to be who you are, and that is enough. Like, and I think as much as athletes define themselves, a race is formed, and the story around a race develops because you're defined in contrast to your competitors too. So it's like in boxing where they measure like height and weight and reach and all that stuff. And we're not talking about doing that directly, but the skills and the makeup of certain runners and their personalities and how they approach different situations. If you set Craig Engels up against Matt Centrowitz, their styles are totally different, and they define themselves, but they accentuate each other in contrast to one another. So that story of a race developing that way, and looking at a race that way, as opposed to, hey, these are a bunch of people who are very similar, and then they're going to run as fast as they can, and we'll see who wins. I think that's kind of a boring story. I like these are a bunch of people with different skills and different personalities and different ways of doing things, and we're going to see who gets to the line first, because they have to take stock of everybody else in the field and know like what their positives are, what their setbacks are, what they came to play with at the moment, and then they have to think about that, and it becomes more of a chess match at that point. And it's time trials are checkers, and racing is chess.
Yeah, hey, that's the line right there, dude. Because yeah, I mean, there's a space in our sport for the Monacos of the world or whatever it might be, but I think that's one of the hotly debated things, right? Like, no one wants to see a time trial every single weekend. It's not always super exciting, and the discussion of time, while important at times, I said the word time a lot in that sentence, but it's cool. It's not everything, and I think something exciting about even this conversation is like people like yourself, you know those stories, and you being behind the scenes, being able to translate those stories to an audience and to me, I think gives people a lot of excitement within the sport, and knowing that there's like people who truly get it trying to do what you guys are doing is just going to make people feel good about it, and then also hopefully lead to an awesome product from a production point of view as well and a storytelling point of view.
Oh man, I get giddy when I'm up there, and like when I see somebody who's doing something amazing on the track, and you're like, oh man, there they go, and then like you kind of just let it flow and try and create off of and riff off of like what those athletes are doing on the track, and hopefully do it in a way that's authentic to them, and try not to say brickyard too many times because that does annoy people, I've heard, but or electric forest. But yeah, it's amazing to be able to be in that position to speak to what athletes are doing on the track, and then I think in trying to show that through different mediums as well. So I feel that if we dig down deep into what is the seed of a race and what's authentic about a race on the track, then the way if we have that and we can appease the Hayward Field faithful, or appease is the wrong word, if we can reach them still, then we can use whatever medium we want to grow this out and try to reach other people, because it's coming from a real place and it's coming from what people have always loved about racing. But I think a problem that happens in our sport is that people like you and me, track nerds, we think, oh my God, like I love track. I'm just going to cram it down people's throats in the same way that I'm taking it in, because they're going to love it too. But I think like then this is where I get all sappy about it. Like if you want to share something with somebody, um, I don't think it's about sharing the physical substance of something. It's about sharing the feeling. So if I want to share the feeling that I have with somebody else, then I need to do the work, the creative work, to repackage what it is and give it to them in a way that they're going to feel what I feel. And it might not be watching heats 8 all the way down to 1 of the 800, and then starting at the 1500 with heat 10 all the way down to 1, and then moving on for a 6-hour broadcast. Maybe it's a different type of thing. So that's kind of what we're always trying to tweak and figure out, and the benefit of having a broadcast linked directly to the meet organization as well.
Yeah, it lets you be there and create the stories from the start and kind of shape a schedule in a narrative that's going to make a lot of sense. I know we're jumping around a little here, but one of the ones that I know we wanted to talk about, as well as it pertains to like narrative and cool stories within it, is the team versus team thing. I know that there's individual, you put them in air quotes, rivalries, because some of these guys are best friends, some of them are genuine rivals, but like there's people individually competing against each other. There's also this really cool development locally in the United States, but then also internationally, of these different teams and organizations that people are getting excited about and kind of getting behind. I know that's a big thing with Lilac right now, where you look at the list of entries and the schedule, and you can see the teams that are in each event. It is a super exciting thing. It seems like one that you guys want to focus on as well. Is that accurate to say? Are you jazzed up about it the same way that I am?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing now, and social media has done a ton for this too, is the identity and culture built around these different teams that are created, who were previously either training groups or running clubs, but now are full-on sports teams. So you've got the Bowerman Track Club, the Red Lightning Express. You've got the Union Athletics Club now. You've got the Oregon Track Club, the granddaddy of them all. The Brooks Beasts up north, and many out east too, like the District Track Club and the Atlanta Track Club, and NAZ Elite. And I'm going to be missing a few teams too. Golden Coast down in San Diego, Empire Elite too. I could go on and on, but yeah, these teams are developing, and they're I think they derive their culture and their identity from the athletes who are in them, but as well as the coaches. I mean, Jerry Schumacher is a different guy than Pete Julian, and his team is shaped and reflected by that. So um, you have these different groups, and like we were talking about before, you could be a fan of all of them, but they stand for different things, and it just seems criminal that we shouldn't talk about them set against each other in these competitions too, because I think something that develops from that, and it takes our sport, which is largely believed to be an individual sport, it takes it into the team sphere, and it gives meaning, a greater meaning to an individual's performance, because it's attributed then to and given to the team. And then you can create the hero aspect, which I like. Like, oh, Josh Kerr, like he did that. Like, this is a big win for the Brooks Beast. They're throwing fish to everybody now in Pike's Place. Like, everybody's excited about it in Seattle. And then you like, so you expand that ripple effect, and it's not just the Brooks Beast themselves, but it's everybody who aligns themselves with the Brooks Beast that's excited about that. And then that becomes a moment in history for that team, and you can erect monuments for it. You can do all kinds of things. So I think having that on a domestic level and even international level, because there's some great teams in Australia too. Melbourne Track Club, shout out. But yeah, once you start doing that, then like the stories are endless, and it's shaped not just as a country versus country sport, but um, these groups can really curate and develop themselves and give themselves their own identity too. So
Yeah, and
we're going to keep score, is what I'm saying.
which is huge. And first of all, when they erect the Josh Kerr statue in Seattle, monument, the monument sounds way better than statue. I don't know why, but that would be epic. First and foremost, we're waiting for that one. If Seattle takes ownership instead of Scotland, that's cool. But I mean, and even what we were chatting about before, like geographical interest in some of these teams, whether you're like a Colorado guy and you want to align yourself to Team Boss, or you're New York and Empire Elite or whatever, there can be reasons that you can start to cheer for people that maybe you don't know personally, or like have followed their careers or journeys. I mean, we alluded to the Hayward faithful before, but it's one of the reasons that like former Ducks get so much love, because they're former Oregon people that every single person in those grandstands are like, oh yeah, I remember when Centro wore the uniform and went 1, 2, 3 in the 15. That was so epic. Like it creates fans and storylines which are super, super exciting, and people get behind as well. And we would be remiss as well if we didn't talk about, but Union Athletic Club, we don't need to refer to them as the Dragons anymore, though we both probably will still lovingly do that. Those uniforms would have been fire. That's all I'm going to say. Literally fire. Could have been the uniforms. But I know that that would have been great idea right there. But I know they're doing a lot with Lilac as well. And we should probably let you give them their roses. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think with this system too, and what we're trying to do for athletes, with the profit sharing model, and then showcasing the sport in a new way that's still rooted in its heritage. It takes, I mean, it takes commitment from stars to make that happen. And early on, the UAC was like, yeah, we want to commit to this, and we want to host this. So I think when you have some of the biggest stars in the sport, like Donovan Brazier and Coco and Jess Hull and Craig Engels, like they're stepping on the line, and they're saying, "Hey, we're here. Like, come race against us." That's a big shift, and something that I'm really grateful for too, to be given that opportunity to help put something on that they're involved with, and that you have a team that says, "Hey, come race us too." I think that's amazing. We need more teams out there like that, and there are, like the Brooks Beasts are like that as well, and the Oregon Track Club, and Team Boss, which is coming too, and the NAZ Elite. So um, I think developing more of that culture is key to that. But like the UAC stepping up and doing this, and making that, I mean, it's apropos that their name is Union in that way, I guess. If there's a 30 for 30 created about this later on, then it'll have something to do with that, I think.
The intro will write itself right there with those guys. But yeah, I mean, it almost jumps back to kind of what we chatted about before, where you get the stars coming in, and then all of a sudden, cool, you've got Donovan or Coco or Jess Hall, whoever it might be, getting eyeballs over there, and then all of a sudden, a slew of other athletes are like, oh, cool, I can go there as well, because obviously, tons of people are going to tune in to watch X race. There's going to be a reason for me to go. Maybe it's a fast time. Maybe it's the profit sharing. Maybe it's knowing that the production is going to be awesome. It's what you guys have done with the athlete-centric approach and just making sure that people love the experience.
Yeah. I mean, don't give us too much credit. We're working hard, all right? We're hard workers. We're blue collar. Yeah. We do it for the athletes. Yeah, I mean, I just feel uncomfortable like getting any money out of this, knowing, or if the athletes aren't as well, because they're the ones doing the work. They run the sport, literally. So yeah,
literally.
we just try and do we just try and do what we can to support them and set the stage. I mean, because there's nothing that I love more than a grand performance like in front of a crazy crowd too, and like that men's 1500 at Portland Track Festival last year, where Engels like swung off the curve and was weaving through traffic, and then Hobbs Kessler comes in and breaks that record, and you get a bunch of guys under the standard, and so everybody got something there, but the win really mattered. That was crazy, and the stands weren't full there because they couldn't be, because we're in a pandemic. But this year things will be different, and at Lilac the stands will be full too. So I think just being able to set the stage for those types of performances is, I mean, that's something that I always want to be part of and help push in the sport. Like, we need to bring meaning to these things and give meaning to the work that the athletes are doing on the track.
Dude, I mean, that you summed it up right there, which is absolutely awesome. I know we promised to not rant for an hour. I know we can keep going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to point people at the article that you've written for Tempo, but I'm also going to point people at the Lilac meet, because ideally people tune in. Just go get your pay-per-view tickets. I don't know if there's a better way to put it, or go and sweeten the pot, because that's actually kind of fun. I think that's awesome. You can like who you think is going to win. I'm butchering the language that I should be using here, but the meet's going to be sick.
Yeah, we got a fan poll too. Like, you need to purchase a ticket in order to pick your favorite, but we're toying with the idea of and we will have something. If somebody picks every race correctly, if they pick the winner for every race correctly, then we'll have a special prize. So be on the lookout for that.